Well, welcome. I'm Vince Gennaro, the head of the NYU School of Professional Studies Lab for Transformative Leadership. And we're here today as part of our Leading at the Edge of Change series about innovative technologies that match up with human needs. And we're here today with Shawanna DelHierro from Soundhound AI. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time today.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have this conversation. You're doing such interesting things at Soundhound, and it's such an innovative company. But before we get started into the depths of it, tell us a little bit about what your platform is and what you're trying to accomplish.
Certainly. Thank you again. So Soundhound AI is a 20-year-old company. We started with the app that said, what song is this playing overhead? But most certainly over the course of 20 years have grown into a voice enablement and automation company that transcends industry in healthcare, in financial services, in retail, in hospitality, in automotive. So really, quite honestly, you could find Soundhound technology immersed in almost every environment that you step into today.
And as I understand it, it's a voice AI platform that is trying to bring conversation between people and machines the same way we would talk to each other as people.
Quite naturally in that scenario, exactly right. So people seek to use technology in their day-to-day lives and in every aspect of the things that they do and every task that we have at hand, but to do so in a way that is not robotic. And that's what Soundhound bridges the gap of. It's the technical aspects of our transactional way of doing things, but doing so in a natural linguistic way that makes it inherently just flow through how we execute and operate every day.
Yeah, and I'm particularly interested, you have a number of industry verticals that you operate in, and I'm particularly interested in the QSR segment, the quick serve restaurant segment. Apparently you're doing some interesting things at the drive-thru with this. Talk a little bit about that.
We are. Our technology really, as a differentiator to those others in the market, our voice technology that is able to isolate and identify the orderer, the customer, in various languages with dynamic capability, dynamic voice identification that gives a personalized experience. We have a number of, thousands of different quick service restaurant clients that are using our technology today that has high levels of accuracy, high engagement, and high levels of satisfaction. Not only satisfaction for the customer who is engaged within the drive-thru experience, but it helps within the entire flow. So think about the order experience for the customer who has pulled up to the drive-thru, has multiple people within the car, there's a lot of ambient background noise, but our technology is able to isolate the order, bring that order back to the kitchen staff where they have a very clear order without disruption. They're able to start preparing that order faster. So it reduces the operational overhead by the owner, the operator of the QSR, and then they're able to then provide that order out to the customer at the point that they meet the window. So without that lag and that delay, you've had a high level of serviceability with hot food, with high accuracy, and everyone leaves a happy customer and returns a happy customer. So the rate of adoption thereby increases as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what I'm curious about is how are you able to navigate high noise environment and also the dialect differences, not just the language differences, but even the dialect within the language in order to make this all seamlessly fit together.
Yeah, and I think that's where, especially over the last several years, where our technology has really advanced and been able to leverage a number of our different models across different industries and the way that our architecture is established to be able to take in all of those different languages, but multiple dialects within each one. So Spanish within Texas versus Spanish within New York or California are quite different. And so for our customers, it's critical that those not be a one-size-fits-all. They have to be nuanced and personified by the location. So a given chain that might be national has to have that enabled technology, and that's what we do. So in the environment where a customer of ours actually has the capability to merge languages within one conversation, that's a differentiator that Soundhound provides. You can change from Spanish to English to French, all within the same thread and the same conversation, and change back. So, and doing that within a healthcare environment or a restaurant environment or hospitality as a concierge service is really dynamic and transformative.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting is you're not just solving a problem, you're going beyond that. Problem solving to, yes, solve the problem and then take it to the next level and create an opportunity. You could have a Spanish-speaking staff and an English-speaking customer and have that completely eliminate the misunderstandings that could transpire between them.
I actually just witnessed that with one of our customers in a clinical setting a couple of weeks ago. I was in to have an appointment and watched as they were struggling a little bit with using some of the technology that was dated, and then the manager came over and said, "Oh, did you know we're actually testing some newer technology?" I know that that's our Soundhound technology. Was really proud to see that in motion as they're using that to be able to help the associate who was working with a customer. It was a limiting factor on the associate side to be able to communicate by just their native dialect and language, not the customer. So it was the inverse effect of that we were seeing more of. So it's really great that now a customer isn't limited to wait for someone else to be serviced. They actually can receive the help that they need because of the technology that's at hand in a given mobile device or a tablet device that is a handheld or what have you. And using that as voice technology is really transforming the way that every industry is doing business today. Again, that concierge experience, that white glove service, I mean, that's what we're helping our customers to solution for, is meeting their customers where they are.
Yeah, and what's so exciting about that is what we're doing at the Lab for Transformative Leadership is right along the lines of this, in that we're going beyond solving problems and going into the unknown and creating things. Generative thinking is what we call it. Talk a little bit about some of the other verticals, industry verticals that you're in. I know you're in automotive, you're in healthcare. Talk about some of that.
I mean, some of the examples that we see in healthcare, for instance, appointment scheduling. If you think about the way that we as humans, we seek to use technology. We appreciate that it drives efficiency. For us, voice enablement provides a safer experience. It's hands-free. It's allowing for things that we can use voice to do transactions securely with authentication. So if I'm scheduling an appointment, if I want to validate my benefits, if I want to find a nearest location for hospital, if it's an emergency need, all of those things can be done with Soundhound technology from the seat of my car as I'm driving down the road, never stopping to pull out my billfold to say, here's my insurance information. I can do that all audibly. And do so in a secure way that provides a tokenized experience so that my information is contained and secure. So that information is never stored. We never retain that information as Soundhound. It all transcends through a digital workflow. The customer that has enabled that technology is never receiving that information. They too are never storing it. So as the patient, as the customer, as the servicer, we're providing a protection layer that's there. So that architecture is really critical for us. That's an example of healthcare. If I think about others, like the retail experience, being able to be omnichannel, going from looking something up. We're coming off of a holiday and a high volume shopping weekend, but talking aloud as I'm driving down the road to say, where can I find the best deal on X product? Not trying to scroll through my device as I'm driving down the road. That's a safer experience, not only for me, but for those around me, but it also drives efficiency. It's reducing carbon footprint of drivers on the road because I'm not driving across town for something that may be 2 miles closer. So there's a number of things that, when we talk about the level of magnitude and impact that voice enablement really delivers, it really goes beyond just how, easy and convenient it is, but it really is making a difference at a scale that we've really not really tapped into yet, I believe.
Yeah. And so that people understand how this goes beyond a typical, what we might find today on a typical website that's a chatbot. Mm-hmm. There's an agentic element to this as well, right? And there's reasoning behind it. Explain a little bit how it differentiates from what we might have known in the last couple of years as a chatbot.
Sure. So if you think about, a chatbot, for instance, that's very static. It's ingesting information, it's responding back. When that session is over, it's closed and it's moved on to the next. When you think about agentic is truly about maturing, it's about learning, and it's about evolving. So as that chatbot, if you will, exists, it's a brain unto itself. And it's listening and it's learning about, hey, what are the needs of these customers for this given financial services company? What are the needs and the different words that are used? What's the specific vernacular that's used within this given organization or this given restaurant versus another? What makes it different? And so it's all about that personification, helping our customers to have something that's relevant and real for them that meets their customers is very different than just having a static chatbot or digital agent that doesn't really help to ever learn or grow and mature. Years ago, or even 2 years ago, we would sit there and we would create workflows and we would create knowledge articles and knowledge base, and we would develop all of these words that built out what that looked like for a given customer. Now, that bilateral communication stream is building that every day, conversation by conversation. That's the beauty of agentic technology.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. You referenced something a few moments ago. You talked about data, and what I was intrigued about your product is that the data is partitioned and owned by the client.
Indeed.
It's not what a hyperscaler might do where it's sort of pooled and so forth. So talk a little bit about the value that customers see in owning their own data.
Certainly. So when we think about, some of the, the large language models that exist today, many of them are ingesting that information and using them for continuous modeling. We don't do that. So we allow for our customers to each continue to build their own LLMs. And much to what I referenced in my previous statement, that's what helps their personification. The way that their information is contained and partitioned, the way that it's masked and redacted to protect not only them, but to protect their customers and clients, but that information continues to build in an environment that helps them to deliver value to their customers over and again. But for us, we're not a vendor, we're a partner, and we help to solution for that. We create architecture that based on our solutioning, based on the designs that we have, then those are all nuanced and customized at the customer level that allows for that data security and data protection, data retention at the level of compliance and security that's appropriate. So for us, from the moment that we're developing to the moment of delivery, compliance is top of mind.
Yeah. One of the things I find fascinating about all of this is that the notion of having a branded voice for a client. So if you think about and believe that at some point we're going to see convergence in answers to questions, that it commoditized a bit through the proliferation of AI, you have a differentiator in that the same information by one client can sound very differently when it goes to market from a different client because they customize their voice, they can put cultural intonations into it, they can use different vocabulary. To me, that's a game changer.
It is, and it's one of the things that I love most. I joined Soundhound earlier this year as their CIO and did so after having deployed artificial intelligence a couple of times over in my career, and came to this side of the business, if you will, because I was so enthralled with how advanced our technology was and how much good I saw that we could deliver at scale. And part of that is our personification. If you think about the transactional versus the emotional, when we're completing something, when I'm making a call or I'm making a statement of action that's required and it's transactional, I may be okay with that being a more robotic type of engagement.
Right.
When I'm doing something that is, related to a healthcare need, I need that to feel a bit more emotional. Our technology can deliver that within the same contextual thread. Likewise, when we talk about that personification, as you mentioned, and that difference in voice, when you're calling to place an order at a fast food restaurant, or you're calling to make a reservation at a fine dining restaurant, you expect the voice to be a little different. You expect the context and the language and the level of service to be a bit different. The technology is the same. The choice is the customer's to make. What do they want that voice to sound like? What language do they want that voice to use? How many languages do they want it to be an option given? Do they want 2? Do they want 10? Do they want multiple options to be given without advancing to a concierge? Do they want it to be all transaction by digital? Those are all choices that they make. In the same regard, if you think about as a bank or large financial, we have multiple global financial institutions that we've supported for years. And as they've advanced their technology forward, from being the legacy chatbot to moving into voice technology, there's a transactional level of service and support that is required. But at a certain juncture, when those calls need to escalate, maybe the voice changes, maybe the options change, maybe based on the workflow or the need that has been identified by you, the customer or the caller, maybe the voice changes at that intersect. But all of those things can be dynamically created by Soundhound for our given customers.
Yeah, and it reflects a principle that we're seeing more and more applied in business, and you're doing it to the hilt, and that is optionality.
Yes.
And that's really a foundational strategy for you. Talk a little bit about Internet of Things, smart devices, appliances. How does your work play into that as well?
Yeah, I mentioned, we as humans, we're hungry for technology. And so as we look at where we exist today, I think those are the opportunities that we have to continue to see voice grow. Whether it's in smart devices, whether it's in, more progressive utilization of wearables. And, we'll see that continue to advance because, again, our technology, it really does transcend industry. It transcends age. It transcends voice, noise. And it transcends, the dynamic need of the customer. They travel from one country to the next. They move from their car to their home. They move from a noisy stadium into a quiet room. They don't have to make adjustments. The devices can make those adjustments for them. Their voice is the catalyst for any option that they need to execute against. So our technology follows that with them. So I think those are all just modalities of that we continue to see move and grow for us to deploy Soundhound AI.
Yeah. I want to end with a question about your value proposition. Things like cost, user experience, speed are all elements. How would you articulate that value proposition and almost in a hierarchical sense? Like, are your clients seeing this mostly as a cost reduction mechanism? Are they seeing it as a business building mechanism? I know the answer is all of the above,
Sure.
But how would you order those?
I think cost always matters, but it's speed and it's consistency. When we talk about, showing up well, showing up consistent is paramount. Establishing, when I mentioned that we're a partner and not, a vendor, it's starting with building out that governance model with our customers, not just deploying AI or deploying, agentic technology or deploying machine learning for the sake of doing so. Just because it can be automated doesn't always mean that it should. But if you're reliable and consistent, then it's critical that you develop what the metrics are on the front end. We do that with our customers today. We make certain that everyone understands the value proposition. So cost always matters, absolutely. But speed and consistency, those are the things that at the end of the day, everyone is looking to make sure that we deliver against. But if we establish them early days, if everyone is well aligned, that we're going to go the journey together, and that we all have a clear scorecard at the end of it that we can be measured against, then that journey becomes easier, giving people an opportunity to effectively weigh in, they better buy in. So those barriers of entry become reduced when we're talking a collective, agreement with everyone. We're talking in transparency, and we're talking about what that value is and what everyone is seeking to achieve. We have alignment on the front end, and then we have progressive delivery all the way through, and we partner with people to do that.
Yeah, and I love this notion of consistency. If we think about it at a human level, we hit peaks. What you're able to do with this is you're able to sustain the peak, and you're able to achieve that peak consistently. I think it's terrific. Shawanna DelHierro, CIO of Soundhound AI, is wonderful to have a conversation, and best of luck to what you're continuing to build.
Thank you so much, Vince. I appreciate the time today.